Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's ready to knock you back on your coal mining keisters. Sweet Sean Zakovac from the internet.
Boy, if we're gonna do nothing but listen to Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack, I'm here for it.
Indeed. And he's still mad no one bought his show with a talking recumbent bike, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I got to tell you, Axel F is my jam.
Oh, it's all good. Listen, it's a glorious soundtrack.
It is one of the silent sleeper greatest soundtracks of all time. You put that sucker on, no one is frowning.
Yeah, between Clint
I learned
Fry
how to
and
tap out. I learned how to tap out Axel F with one finger on the piano. That's how much I love that song, because nothing else would make me go near a piano.
I saw a TikTok video today that was just like the dividing line between a lot of the age group is when you hear, is it Axel F or are you hearing Crazy Frog when you hear the actual thing?
Oh.
Now, obviously, the Gen Xers would obviously go more towards the Beverly Hills Cops. The Millennials go more towards the Crazy Frog. I am in that spot where I'm like, it's literally both to me. I'm right there in that middle spot where I'm just like, it literally goes, okay, I have to wait a couple of seconds to go, which one of these is it? And when it happens, I don't really care either way. I enjoy it.
Okay, so I got to tell you what blew my mind when I learned how to play Axel F on the piano with one finger.
That it was more difficult than you had realized?
No, that the note F, the key for the note F, is in the middle of that tune. So it's like the axle that tune goes around is F. But then it also works as Axel Foley, So I thought, man, that was it Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock? I thought, man, that Herbie Hancock's something.
I tell you what, I don't know that anyone would have ever in a million years thought they were going to get some music theory talk here at the top of Hero Movie Podcast. Your greatest source for
we're
superhero
talking about
movies.
Heat Wave and Jack.
Yeah, everybody, this week we're talking about the unaired pilot/TV movie. We're not quite sure. It's from 1999. It's called Heat Vision and Jack. But before we get into it, we do want to say thank you to the people over at patreon.com/HMP who helped actually make this happen, because not only do they get pre-show, they get post-show, they get Dinger Zone, they get to vote on what we watch every single month. Here was the breakdown for the voting. Global Frequency, that was the Warren Ellis joint. That was at the bottom, not even close. Sorry, Warren, people, the HMPers, not a fan. Then we had Look Well with Adam West coming in at 14%, 21% for The Amazing Screw on Head from Mike Mignola, but with a whopping 57% of the vote, Heat Vision and Jack, starring Jack Black and Owen Wilson, directed by Ben Stiller, won out with just massive. It's massive. So we're going to be covering that today. But we also want to welcome in a brand new supporter of the show, coming in at, I believe, the $5 level, Richard C. Shawnee. Do we have a name for Richard?
We do indeed.
Oh,
so Richard,
I was like, dude, because I didn't say anything ahead of time. I was just like,
I
fingers.
told you, man, I got to write everything down now. That's literally the only way things get done. So Richard, with a first name like yours, I'm sure you've got people wanting to nickname you a whole bunch of things. I myself know quite a few Richards, and there's only one I know that goes by Richard. And let me tell you something. That dude is awesome. He was a groomsman at my wedding. He used to work with me back in the old days when I was just starting out at the Cracker Factory. And the guy is the toughest, nicest, smartest guy I know. And I don't talk to Richard much anymore because I moved. And there's also a little bit of unpleasantness that I don't want to get into here live on the air, but there's a little bit. But that guy was he's basically like a cowboy who later became an astronaut. Like, that's the best way I could describe what that Richard is like. And so this week, by the power invested in me by the good people who brought you the internet, I'd like to welcome you into the HMP with your new nickname, the Cowboy Astronaut. You're welcome, and we thank you.
Cowboy Astronaut.
Very nice. Man. That's better than a space cowboy all day long. I love it.
Yeah, it's more refined. It's more dignified, I believe.
Was Richard Harris wasn't in that Space Cowboys movie, was he?
No.
I think Richard Harris was plenty dead by that point.
I don't know who lives and who dies. You know that.
He was still alive, Adam.
Was he?
Yeah, Richard Harris is in the first
not
Harry Potter movie.
Oh,
it's not a recent movie. That Space Cowboys movie has got Donald Sutherland in it, right?
Yes.
Donald Sutherland was the young boy on that one.
He was probably the youngest person on that show. Yeah,
coming in with a graceful old age of 68.
Well, man, I can't wait to hear the trailer for Heat Wave and Jack. Why don't we go ahead and play that for him, Adam?
All righty, I will do my best.
Hello, America. I'm Ben Stiller. In 1992, I had a show here on Fox. They ridiculed me for my effort. I was canceled. Then, I won this. It's called an Emmy. Let's change cameras. Now, having returned to television a wealthy and powerful man, I've directed an incredible new action series called Heat Vision and Jack. In it, we follow the adventures of a super-intelligent renegade astronaut and his talking motorcycle. Some of you will marvel at our state-of-the-art special computerized effects, which, quite frankly, rival those of a certain new Star Wars movie. Some of you will be frightened or aroused. Still others may be entertained. As a person you admire, I'm giving you permission to appreciate this show. I'm also offering you my personal guarantee that it's going to knock you back onto your coal mining asses. And that's a promise you won't be hearing from Georgie Lucas. Hey there, Mr. Beard. How many Emmys do you have? Once again, America, I give you what you want.
That was the opening for Heat Vision and
Okay.
Jack.
I gotta say, you surprised me there, Adam. I thought I was throwing you like a softball where you were going to point out that there's no way in heck there's a trailer for this pilot that didn't get picked up. And then when you started playing something, I couldn't quite hear it on my end, and I thought maybe you were doing a bit where you played.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything at all.
No, it's
So
okay.
I thought maybe you were just playing silence because there's like no trailer. But then I thought, man, this bit is bad.
I
if
did
he's
it.
going
Okay.
on this long.
Well-
it's silence.
I'm so glad you didn't say anything. I played the opening bit. Here's the thing: I didn't have a chance to put it on the soundboard itself, so you couldn't hear it, and it's going through the same channel that your mics are actually going through, so you couldn't hear it back. And I didn't think about that, and I'm so glad you didn't say anything, because had you said anything like we can't hear anything, we would have heard it straight through the actual
There
thing,
came a
because
point-
I did turn you guys down because you were up the whole time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, but it was haphazard. But I wanted to play that beginning just to kind of give a vibe of what this show was. That was the opening, minute and a half here.
Yeah, there was a point where I kind of caught on that you must have the mix minus going.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Yeah.
because
So-
there's no even you wouldn't play a bad joke that long.
yeah. Even
I wouldn't play a bad joke that long. I
Even
should
Bruce
say.
Leslie would hold out on doing a joke that bad. But no, I just kind of showed the opening with Ben Stiller giving us the rundown of Heat Vision and Jack, so people know exactly what's going on in this. But maybe Bruce will have something else for us.
Time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
See, when it's on the soundboard, you can hear that one. But when it's on yours, you're not going to hear that back. It doesn't make sense.
I could only hear the faintest bleed from what must have been from your cans going into your mic.
Probably so.
Okay, so Heat Wave and Jack is not a comic book, no comic book adaptations, not based on a comic book, but it has just so much of what comic book fans love. It's got Jack Austin, and Jack Austin has to very much be inspired by Steve Austin, and I don't mean Stone Cold. I'm talking about none other than the $6 million man, the very one who fist fought Bigfoot. Now, honestly, you don't have to spend $6 million to get somebody to fist fight Bigfoot. I've got a cousin on my mother's side that'll do it for free if you get him drunk enough. And Heat Vision. On first glance, Heat Vision might seem to be inspired by Kit from Knight Rider. But the astute cool stuff connoisseur like me knows he has far more in common with Speed Buggy, a room zoom zoom. Also, having Ron Silver as the villain is kind of like Tank Girl and how Paul Hogan was the bad guy in that comic. Something else to note is that one of Heat Vision and Jack's writers is the creator of Scud, the Disposable Assassin, a comic book that I really enjoy. And that guy's Rob Schraub, who's also known as Dan Harmon's writing partner that you're still allowed to like. So, though there's not a direct link here, there are comic book connections. And Adam, do you have a list?
Well, if that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this unaired TV pilot / movie / who knows what this was, because this sucker's got everything. It's 1999, and even though we do not yet know what a Nepo baby is, it is alive and well, and Ben Stiller shows us that anyone can make it, given their parents are comedy legends. We got Jack Black as a NASA man whose intelligence is governed by the sun. Owen Wilson is a disembodied voice of a motorcycle. Vincent Scavelli plays a, surprise, a greasy old Italian man. We've got a lady... the lady from the diner on Seinfeld, Miss Ben Stiller, the Kmart Al Pacino, Ron Silver, an opening where Ben Stiller tells us all of this silliness is nonsense. George Lucas digs horse racing on the radio, laser eyes, wolf punching, blue screen, motorcycle driving, the happiest song about meth ever. Motorcycle potty mouth and NASA are the bad guys. The human mind is like cookie dough. Bet you didn't know that one. Ron Silver playing JCVD even before Jean-Claude Van Damme. The creeping sun turning on the crystal method and Einstein equation. That's always fun. Convenient dog whistle, dust piles, chokehold, airborne. Great lines like I feel so much as one bullet hit me, I'll come over there and pull your lungs from your nostrils. We got flip books, wheel attacks, bike flipping, T2 reference playing in the back with playing back with the years of kids playing with the kids. I wrote that terribly. Flashbacks taking flashbacks of taking a laser for your roommate. Star Trek face fighting, Bonanza screen transition, Daleks going crazy hard style. The Sunken Pleasure, a gentleman's club that plays Tom Jones, spun by club DJ Ben Stiller. Motorcycle through a strip club window, awkward fight scenes, brawl blindfold featuring music by Zeppelin and Metallica, but it's 90s Metallica, so you know it's good. Stripper pole swim kick, pulling the rug out from underneath of you, wild misunderstanding of how electricity works. Space demons trapped on a cassette tape, the sun goes down and one gets dumb, so it's sad. Best line nominees: if fate makes you a motorcycle, you become a motorcycle, and knowledge is power for real. Long cool woman in a black dress. Sunset credits. This show's got everything.
Yes, got some talent attached to this one. Where do we start talking with meta theory on this?
I think we have to start with it. I think that
let's go.
Yeah, and when you had texted on the chain your theory on this, I immediately seconded your theory because I was thinking the exact same thing while watching this. And since you said it first, why don't you say it?
Well, the text that I sent was something to the effect of, I don't think this was really a pilot. I think this was done for some other reason, like a short film kind of as a joke or whatever. And maybe it was to tie in with Tropic Thunder, because they had like those fake trailers and stuff. So maybe it was supposed to like tie in with that Jack Black and Ben Stiller were working on. But my theory was nobody ever intended for this to be picked up.
There's no way. I don't think it has anything to do with Tropic Thunder, only because, you're talking about two things that are 15 years apart.
Yeah.
But I think that the ironic detachment that this show is written with means that they never intended for this to go to series, this is clearly just a one-off. And it's not just in the writing, it's with everything about this show, where he's clearly not actually riding a motorcycle. He's clearly sitting in front of a green screen.
Hey, listen, if it's good enough for Lorenzo Lamas, it's good enough for Jack Black, says I.
Here's something else I want to ask, if I'm not cutting you off too soon, Sean.
No, go ahead.
Okay, because something else I just want to ask is, like, does pilot season, is that like a two-way street? Like, I'm picturing Ben Stiller went to Fox, got money to make a pilot so he could shoot this experimental short film. It even starts with a title card that says episode 14, like all George Lucas
Which
stuff.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, me too.
And then let's just say that they screen it for the Fox execs, whoever those faceless people are. And they say, you know what? It's not our cup of tea, but it's got Owen Wilson and Jack Black, who aren't as big as they're going to be, but they're still pretty big. So we want it. And then they say, nah, we don't want, it's not for sale anymore. We took your money, we made it, but now we decided we don't want to do it. Like, because they can always, because the network is under no obligation to pick it up. Are you in an obligation if they do pick it up, is what I'm curious about. Boy, I think stumbled out of my mouth, but I think you know what I'm saying.
What I honestly think the case is here, it's one of two things. It's either one, because Ben Stiller was so angry with Fox because they canceled the show and they treated it so poorly, and he got an Emmy for it, that they were like, well, we're more than willing to give you another series.
Oh, I'm loving this theory.
Yeah.
Oh, keep going. Preach it, brother.
So, so he intentionally and on purpose made a bad TV pilot. And I don't think that nearly as much as what I think the second reason could be. which is that this is a proof of concept for something else. That they shot this thing to show people that they are capable of making a thing, and then from there they made something else. Which I think is more truthful and probably what it is.
I love your first theory.
I know. I know you're a big fan of Spike.
I gotta go into this a little bit more though, for a couple of reasons, because I got some more data points that I haven't shared with you guys. But first off, it's not just bad; it's bad and expensive.
Yes,
like, this is one of those that I know it cost a lot, but they were expecting something way more polished than what they got. But all the money is spent on talent, right?
Right.
And music. It's like, let's get something that we can film for $15 and buy a $25,000 3-second snippet of song to put in there just to rub it in Rupert Murdoch's face.
I would say more.
Here's something else.
More than likely, though, like 0 of the songs in any of these pilot things that we've ever seen were ever cleared. Like,
and I've heard Dan Harmon. I went and listened to Dan Harmon, an episode of Harmontown, when he was talking about this project. And he 100% was taking it seriously. Like this was Dan Harmon in 94 is not Ben Stiller in 94. He's definitely not Dan Harmon in 2007.
No.
So he and his writing partner, Rob Schraub, were very, very serious when they were writing this script. And he talked about what this show is actually about as he's writing it. And like Dan Harmon is like, this is a metaphor for the single guy that keeps living that single guy lifestyle while everybody around him is growing up. And you've got like that one best friend who did something for you a long time ago, so you feel loyal to him, but they can't go on without you. And they're like holding you back from development. And that's why they made Heat Vision a motorcycle and not a car, is because a motorcycle falls over if it doesn't have somebody there to prop it up. And he was talking about how in the first season, there was going to be like a one-night stand with the girl. And then in the 5th season, he was going to run into her again. And she's like in medical school and she's engaged, planning her wedding, looking at making a down payment on a house. And he's still riding around on Heat Vision, doing nothing. And he's like, he really wanted to explore his own like doubts about himself or whatever, obviously. And he even wanted to try and bring it back. And he said, you would not believe how many people own a piece of this IP. So I think that's also part of like why it was hard to pick up, as I guarantee Owen Wilson, Jack Black, Ben Stiller, Ben Stiller's wife, Vince Chevali, and Ron Silver all have points in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said, the weird thing is I could just do this story and not call it Heat Vision and Jack and be fine. But now I would like, I'm basically bear trapped on calling it Heat Vision and Jack.
I didn't know any of that. That's amazing. I don't know how much you guys know about this, but and I might have brought it up a time or two before on the show, but Ben Stiller is notoriously very difficult to work with.
I did not know that.
He is. And everybody loves Severance. I love Severance. It's such a great show. And he is the director of that as well. He also fired 4 different production designers to get the look that he was looking for eventually to get to Severance. Cause making liminal spaces is very hard when you're trying to cut it out of whole cloth instead of just finding a place.
I was going to say, that's why so many TV shows and movies will use a trope like my liminal space looks just like San Francisco's Chinatown. You know what I mean? They'll make it look like something that's not a liminal space, but that's the code that it is. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. So, it's the reason why, of course, Ben Stiller is in the show that he's directing. Of course, his soon-to-be wife is in the show, and it's because it's kind of how he is. I think that one of the things, and I'm gonna backtrack this to what you said about Harmontown, which is that because Ben Stiller didn't have anything written in this series or in this pilot, he didn't take it nearly as seriously as he would have if he had some skin in the game with the script. And so, he's like, we'll just get this script and we'll crap something out and we'll have a fun time doing it, which is fine. And that's totally fine. But when your entire career is based upon you're a very difficult person, eventually someone is going to come up through the ranks who's like, hey, listen, this is the deal with this guy. And I think that that's what happened here.
Okay. I could see that. I do also say that in that Harmontown conversation that he said he'd like to get it back and tighten up that editing a little bit. So I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but I get the idea that he really did not expect as much of an ironic satire as he got,
Sure.
You expect comedy, but you expect more like the comedy, the snarky Scooby-Doo talk you get in a Joss Whedon show, not or
Right.
the surrealism that you get in Community, but not necessarily like what this was.
Right.
Which is like a skit within another funnier show or movie.
So my first question about the show proper is, did you guys enjoy watching this?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved watching it. I shouldn't say I loved it because it's not good necessarily, but man, I loved watching it for the surreal experience. Like I've never had a life that would allow me to experiment with drugs as much as maybe some people have, but watching things like this gives me an idea what it might feel like.
It's I'm glad that you guys had mentioned something in our chat, and I had yet to watch this at that point. I'm glad you guys said that going in, because I don't know how I would have received this otherwise, because it's very different. Like Bruce said, I wouldn't go so far as to say that like I like it or I thought it was great, but it is wildly interesting to watch. It is.
Yes.
I'll rewatch it.
Yeah, I've watched it twice. I watched it once just for the initial watch, and then again for like the list and everything. Again, it's just 30 minutes, so I was like, I can watch this twice. And after the first time, I had enough fun with it where I was just like, oh, it's just. And you guys tell me, this feels like one of the most Gen X-y movies I've ever seen, because it's
without a doubt,
it's
man.
the Gen X humor on everything.
You could not have made this even 2 years later. There's no way.
But just
I'm with you
some of the
100% on
jokes and just like little laugh bits that like maybe they aren't wildly funny, but there's a lot of like kind of stuff in there that's just like, it's just clever enough, it's just silly enough, and this feels like something that they were like, listen, we're gonna put together this weird wacky crap that we've kind of come up with. It's not gonna get picked up. We'll play it at Christmas parties and stuff. It'll be real fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes easy to forget just how long 1994 was, like how long ago it was, but like this. When was Bottle Rocket? Is this even like a pre-Bottle Rocket?
No, this is 99. No. This is 99.
Oh man, I'm still thinking that stupid Sailor Moon thing we talked about in the Danger Zone 94. Okay, 99 makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah. So this is post-Cable Guy but pre-Zoolander.
Good.
Ben Stiller. So like he's been established at this point. But yeah, that like you said, when you see the little bit up front, it's Ben Stiller kind of going, listen, y'all treated me like garbage, and I've proven myself to be not so bad. So give me some money, and I'm gonna flush it down the toilet in front of your face, which is kind of funny. And part of me really respects
get Tracy
that.
Ullman to make another pilot too. Double team him.
But I was surprised at how much fun it was, given how just silly and dumb, but they never.
This feels like something that Jack Black and Owen Wilson, with a couple of I call them friends, but just a couple of people working off the clock for him to make like a funny little YouTube video. Like that's what this kind of feels like to me. Like this would be hilarious if it was something just sent on YouTube and
if this was like
no dream of it being a network show.
If this was a 2015 or like 2012 Funny or Die video, it would have just done bonkers.
I mean, just imagine, just imagine if even in this day and age, suddenly on my YouTube channel, it popped up where I'm the Jack Black role and Silas is the voice of the motorcycle, and we do the same gag.
What
you guys would have thought it was kind of funny.
What is the name of that that little? I think it was on YouTube. What is the name of that little movie where it's sort of has the same feel of this, where it's an 80s movie, but it's not. Like it was made, it was made recently, but it looks like it would be an 80s like action.
Kung Fury, or just no, wait,
No.
it was. Oh God, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the '80s throwback kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it was shot
Is
mostly
it
on blue
the
screen.
one where the time traveling, the guy's going to
Yeah.
hack us back in time? I can't remember what that was called. It's like, yeah, that's how computers work. I'm going to hack us back in time. So they get the computer.
There's like a
program
giant
to time
Viking
travel.
person or something in it. At some
Yeah, I
point.
know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
I've
of
seen
the-
him cosplay it at Dragon Con, for heaven's sake,
It's
and I
not
can't
Time
remember
Cop, but
no.
it's similar to Time Cop.
It's like that. But you guys know what I mean here.
Yeah.
I do indeed.
And this feels like it's Grandpa. This show feels like that.
Oh yeah, good
that
call.
thing's Grandpa, because it's all the same idea, where like, look, this is bad, but we're making it bad on purpose. And it's just complete ironic detachment with all of the comedy that's in it. And we're going to play it straight, even though we're winking at the camera, we're still playing it straight. And so I think, like, I am not a huge fan of that style of comedy. I like this, but I like it more as a curio than anything else.
Yeah.
And so I this isn't something that I'm going to keep going back to. I've seen this before. I had seen it many years ago now, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I totally see why this wasn't picked up for series even back then. And so I'm wondering, when it comes to this style of comedy, can you keep going? Like, let's say Fox was dumb enough to give them the series for this. Would it have gone a season or even maybe two? Like, what show I'm thinking of? What show I'm thinking about is Sledgehammer.
Yeah. I know the show you're thinking about, and that's a really apt comparison. I just don't think, even in '99, man, the star power of Jack Black at the helm is way more than that dude that was in Sledgehammer.
It's true. That is true. And Jack Black is about to take off in a rocket ship because he's about to be a leading man for a couple of years.
Yeah. And I do prefer Doll Man to Sledgehammer. That cop that played Doll Man, or he's not a cop, space cop.
You got to make that distinction, otherwise,
Yeah, I don't want people thinking his jurisdiction.
unions start coming after you.
There's so many things to recommend this. The fact that it's short, the fact that there's so many good people working on this show, the fact that it keeps surprising you with where it's headed, and the other part to it is just how, like, the cheesiness of it, like the way that they string the whole show together. It's a recommend instead of having him actually drive a motorcycle through the desert.
Like, not only had I never seen this before, I didn't know it existed. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know that Jack Black was in it until I didn't even look closely when Adam sent us the link, until I was really getting ready to watch it, was when I realized it was Jack Black. Yet, in a weird way, it feels nostalgic. Like, I'm, because it's hitting all those nostalgic notes.
Sure.
We were talking about Funimation before, but it's like you watch it, and even though I've never seen it before, when Jack Black's face comes up on the screen and says, "Stay tuned, and we'll have more Heat Vision and Jack after these messages," I felt like that was something I used to see in the afternoon after school,
Yeah.
And I would have watched this. I don't know what they would have done. I just think that it would have been a thing where, like, they would have kept asking for more money until the network had to take it off the air. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would be a thing where they're not going to, like they don't want to keep doing it, but they're going to see if they can get paid more and more and more. Like,
it just becomes
I
the
don't
next
think it would just
Simpson.
be a straight up getting canceled or quitting. I think it would be more like, we're going to turn up the heat a lot because we don't really want to do this, but we also don't want them to know we don't want to do it.
So let's say that my first crackpot theory is correct. Let's say that this is like a spite made pilot, right? When they keep dumping money into this, let me go backwards for a second, because my crackpot theory is also dovetailing into another crackpot theory that I heard very recently, which is that there is a theory going around, I believe on Reddit, that Hubie Halloween, that when Sandler made Hubie Halloween, he made it on purpose to be the worst thing he's ever made. And he did it because he could. That look, I've made all of these just god awful things for Netflix.
Oh, man, he still failed because
I can poop in a punch bowl.
Oh, I did too. I mean, I would say to you immediately that Jack and Jill, and I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, are worse movies than that.
And I've never seen Jack and Jill because I suspect it might be his worst movie. Like, I don't even like his good ones that much.
Oh, but it is the best Al Pacino performance you've ever seen.
And that's I mean, I've seen the supercut on YouTube of just the worst things about that movie, of course, but I'm never going to watch that movie.
I couldn't. It's like, oh.
Where does he film those Netflix things at? Like, it is close to his neighborhood or something. I heard he makes them really cheap and he keeps the rest of the budget basically.
It's one of two things. It's either he and his friends go on vacation and they shoot their movie to pay for the vacation, or he does it, just down the street.
Yeah, we're gonna have 90 days in Barbados. Oh my goodness!
Because I heard the secret is he tells Netflix, "I can make a movie for $2 million," and he makes it for $1 million. Basically, like that's the secret to success. Yes. And when he was still in the studio system, he was like, I can make, my movie is guaranteed to make $5 million total at the box office. So what will you give me? And I'll give you something in return.
Right.
And that's how the beauties like Chuck and Larry and Jack and Jill get made.
By the way.
And so basically what I'm saying is that there is a very real possibility. And I mean, now that I'm like stewing on it, and I almost said it as a joke at first, but I think that there is a very real possibility that was this entire thing was made out of spite.
I'm loving that. I'm gonna tell people that that's what I believe. Like, I'm not gonna say that it's the truth. I'm gonna say I 100% believe that this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say I can't tell you why I believe that, but I know a guy who told me something like that.
By the way, I was kind of like trying to put together some timeline and stuff for things. Wikipedia had a very interesting fact about our good friend Benjamin Stiller. Did you know that his films have grossed more than $2.6 billion in Canada and the United States, with an average of $79 million per film for one Ben Stiller?
Wow,
that's pretty darn good. That's a pretty bankable money right there.
It's as Zoe Saldana.
Well, listen, who amongst us can be Zoe Saldana? My goodness.
I'm also going to guess that is massively skewed by the animated movies that he was a part
Night
of,
the
that
Museums
whole franchise.
And stuff.
Night at the Museums, and then the third one, which is Something About Mary.
Yeah, Fockers made a whole bunch of money in those.
Oh, Fockers! I forgot about that movie.
The man's had quite a career on him. There's no doubt there.
Interesting way to judge things like that is to take like the top 3 and the bottom 3 off, and then see what's left.
Yeah. I like this. I love stupid little bits. Like, what do you guys think about Owen Wilson? I don't know that we've ever talked about Owen Wilson as an actor, as a person. What's everybody's vibe on Owen Wilson?
Well, we did talk about him as an actor last year with Loki.
We covered a whole TV show of his.
Oh, shut up. We do a lot of stuff on all of these shows. I don't know how things work.
I'm going to say I consider myself a fan. I consider myself a fan of Owen Wilson.
I will say that there is something magnetic about him, where when he shows up in something, usually it's like it's made better with him being there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is, because I don't think he's spectacular as an actor. He's always playing the same character.
Yeah,
but that character is okay.
It's not bad. I honestly,
Gene Hackman did the same thing. I mean, Gene Hackman was always Gene Hackman in movies, but I still love Gene Hackman. I don't care.
I know Owen Wilson won me over with one line from one of those like Shanghai Nights movies, because I know there were 2 of them, and I don't know which one, but he really won me over with the line where he said, "Nobody loves you. That's why you're a little orphan," or something like that.
My guess is like he's probably just an amazing hang of a dude. Because he is talented as well. Because a lot of people forget that he co-wrote a lot of those early Wes Anderson movies with Wes Anderson and stuff.
And you guys starring in them. I'm thinking about 15 years ago, he had a suicide attempt, and like my heart went out to him then. And I've always just kind of like, he seems, it's weird, but he just seems relatable because, despite his success, he still felt like depressed enough. And then, Willie Nelson went out to Hawaii and hung out with him to help him get over it. I mean, it was just a really interesting story. I've heard Willie Nelson, of all people, talk about Owen Wilson's suicide attempt.
Hey man, I just go over see Owen and make him feel better, man.
It was like, me and Owen Wilson and Snoop Dogg like to hang out, and I can't figure out what in the heck those guys have in
All
common.
of a sudden, their view on life changed, and they were just it's like, you know what?
I can't figure what those.
Maybe
three
things
people
aren't
have
all
to
They
that
said every
bad.
now and then Woody Harrelson will pop in. I'm like, dude, you guys got a real weird Baker's dozen.
You
going
guys
on.
remember 2012, right? Remember that movie? It was pretty sweet.
I do like him, and I think that he, like, specifically these days when he shows up in something, it's made so much better with him being there. I mean, imagine Marvel doesn't shell out the money to have him in Loki. Like, what does that look like? If you have a no-name guy come in to play that role, there's no way that show is as good.
You wouldn't have cared that, like, you wouldn't be like, oh boy, I hope we see him in season 2 and stuff like that. You wouldn't. I don't think, unless you had somebody that was way, had some other type of quality that's like way different than that. But
and I haven't seen everything that Owen Wilson's done. I may not have even seen half because I'm not even sure what all he's done. But out of what I've seen, I feel like his performance in Loki is almost like career redefining or something. I didn't quite know he had that in him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I felt. But you probably have seen more of his stuff than I have.
Well, I can't help but think of the earlier stuff when it comes to him. I mean, I think that after Royal Tenenbaums, he just kind of took off in a rocket ship, and they just gave him anything he wanted to do, which is fine because I love him in that movie.
And he's got this thing that's got to be really weird because I don't know that a lot of celebrities have it quite to this level. But you've got a brother who's almost exactly as famous as you. It's not like an Alec Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin. You know what I mean? It's not like it's closer to Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. That's siblings I can think of that are almost equal levels.
The Bridges, Jeff Bridges and Bo Bridges.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jeff is way up on Bo, man.
that's true.
So I don't know if that plays into your ego a little bit too, or not your ego, but your lower self-esteem when he struggles with it. I don't know who's older, Owen or Luke.
I don't know either.
I think Owen's
Maybe they're
older.
twins, Siamese twins. I don't know.
Maybe Luke's older.
Yeah, maybe.
maybe they're the same.
We're not
person.
Siamese. We're American.
I loved, but like Heat Vision does have some of the best lines in the thing, just like stupid little dumb throwaway crap that I love when he's just like, hey, fill yourself up there with premium, buddy. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was told I wasn't supposed to be talking. Like just little stupid lines like that are like, you guys got some matches on to light some leaves on fire. Like that's.
Can I tell you something, Adam? When I saw that part this time around, when I said, oh, I'm sorry, I was told I shouldn't be speaking. Immediately, I swear this is true. I was like, oh, Adam's going to love that line. It's such an Adam-y line.
Yeah, for sure.
I think my favorite was when Vince Chevali just like gently pushed him over. He was defeated in the fight. I love that part.
Well, he's got to admit that his shortcoming. He doesn't have. I don't have eyes.
Okay, let's get real for a minute, guys. Let's get real for just a minute. Isn't this level of humor about like Nerd Spawn Genesis? Only I was really trying my hardest.
Yeah. Man, you and Ben Stiller should have been putting together and working on something.
Imagine a pilot for that show. I was trying to get us jobs, guys.
We try so hard.
I was really hoping to get optioned.
But I love, the tip over and all that stuff, and just him. I wish we would even have gotten more. Like at some point, he'd have gotten kidnapped. I feel like if the series would have gone on, Heat Vision would have gotten kidnapped and be like, or has some trauma. Maybe like Johnny Five gets beat up, and then has to be like remade and everything. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Or at some point, or at least for one episode, it does get transferred to a car, but it doesn't quite work right because it's in a car. It should be in a motorcycle.
Okay. Since we're spitballing here, I've got a great idea for the next episode of this. So he gets kidnapped, right? The motorcycle gets kidnapped. He goes to a junkyard, and my immediate thought is the Cadillac Cats. Except the Cadillac Cats are performed by people like the people from the musical Cats.
Okay.
And then Jack Black has to show up and save him, and he's got to beat up all of these people who are like the Cats from the musical Cats.
And
I would absolutely watch that show.
And I think Jack Black would absolutely roll well in a sing-along dance fight.
Well-
go with some music that is not quite, but sounds like music from the Playcats.
We will get to that later, but you know, with Jack Black, I don't want to tip my hand here, but there, you know, the man is so multi-talented. It seems like the only thing that ever got in his way was himself. You know what I mean? Like
he's like the white Gen X version of Donald Glover.
It's remarkable just how many things he's great at.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
He's like me, only talented and successful.
Well, the best part is that like this, no matter what it is that he is doing, when doing any of those things, he always looks like he's having the best time. And that's what I think everybody loves about him, is because it's just like, who wouldn't want to be that person that just kind of is themselves all of the time?
And when we go back to the Patreon stuff, remind me to tell you my Jack Black stories.
All right.
And also, there's something about Jack Black that reminds me of the thing that the creepy character from Fast Times at Ridgemont High says, the one that's trying to give, maybe it's Judge Reinhold, advice on how to look cool to girls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's like, wherever you are, man, in your mind, that is the best place on earth. I don't care where you go, what kind of dump you walk into, you go, man, look at this. This is great. And I feel like that's what Jack Black does.
That
no
dude,
matter what or where he is, he makes that the best place in the universe in his mind. And then it's infectious when you do that.
I think so.
That dude who plays the creeper in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I really thought that guy, like, we were going to be seeing him forever, because he just oozed creepy, like from the couple of movies that you saw him in the 80s. And then he just kind of went away, and I'm wondering what happened to that guy.
I'm wondering if he went to jail for a sex crime, because he was that believable.
Okay, now I've got to look it up.
I'm not making any claims. Don't sue me for libel or.
While he's looking that up,
Slander.
let's talk about some claims of our lead actor here. Well, I call him a lead. Why not? Why is Ron Silver in this playing Ron Silver? It's the best thing ever. I don't know why, but I love it.
I want to know if the script was written that way before Silver signed on to the project. Like that is the part I want to know, because it's just weird enough that, like, I could see Dan Harmon saying, who's somebody that we could probably just write into the script and get them?
Ron Silver will show up for $25 and a catered lunch.
I loved it, though. It's kind of weird, but I loved it. Not as cool as when Reggie Jackson played himself in that.
Oh,
what was that movie? Naked Gun.
Naked Gun, yeah.
I want to say Lethal Weapon, which was not the movie I was thinking of.
The best, man.
But there were so many just stupid things in this. The waitress from Seinfeld, she's like one of those character actors who's in a gajillion things, and I just, whenever she shows up, it's just like, oh, perfect. She's just got one of those just beautiful faces that is just like, I am a real person who's acting. Just a character actor. I love it.
So I'm assuming that the lady sheriff is Ben Stiller's ex, not his current partner.
No, that's his current wife. They've been married for 23 years at this point.
Because I thought Sean said he was about to get married. So I thought, well, maybe he's got a new lady in his life.
1 year later, these two would get hitched.
Okay. I thought he meant 1 year from now, Ben Stiller's going to marry. I'm telling you, I'm having trouble tracking time today.
He's all over.
Well, anyway, she is like, it's so easy to say she gets cast in these parts because she's his lady, but she really does bring a lot to the stuff she's in. Like, I liked her. When was the one where she told she was, maybe it was Dodgeball, where he like hit on her and she said, "Oh, you just made me throw up in my mouth a little bit."
Yes.
Like, it's gotta be fun.
Dodgeball.
It's got to be fun throwing shade at your husband on set like that, particularly if he's difficult on set. He's probably difficult at home. I mean, there's upsides to marrying a rich kid, but there's also downsides. When I say that, it's because, his dad wasn't exactly unsuccessful.
No.
Right.
I
have the notes. So this actor that we were trying to remember, because none of us knew his name is Robert Romanus. And he has literally been working the entire time. He has never stopped working. He works all the time. I just have not watched many of the things that he's done. quite honestly. But he has literally been working since the 80s. Like he's still just constantly always working. And he's got two things coming up this upcoming year to give you an example of just how often this guy works. And I guess that just age has made him unrecognizable to me.
Yeah.
But he's been a character actor literally the entire time.
So do you guys remember last year's Grammy winners?
No. I don't remember any Grammy winner ever. All I remember is Homer Simpson like throwing that Grammy out and then somebody just saying, "Hey, don't throw your trash on the street."
Okay, so last year there was a Grammy, I don't remember the category, but it went to an album called The Unofficial Soundtrack of Bridgerton the Musical. Now there is no Bridgerton the Musical. There is the show Bridgerton.
Uh-huh.
And these two ladies who make music saw Bridgerton and loved it and were inspired to write like a musical of it, like songs to go into a musical adaptation. And they weren't just like me and you, Adam. I mean, these are working professionals in the music industry. Pitched it to Netflix. Netflix said, no, not interested. And they still published it as the unofficial soundtrack of Bridgerton the Musical.
Huh.
And they're able to do that. So
That's
could
weird.
I do like an unofficial Heat Wave and Jack musical? Because I think my musical talents are right on par with what this show deserves.
Well, I'm going to encourage that. I'll tell you that right off the bat. I will encourage any of your musical
All right.
ambitions that you have. Please.
2023 Grammy, here I come.
I'm for it. Oh, Christine Taylor, by the way, one of my first early crushes as a kid. She was on Hey Dude, and that was a program that I watched.
Oh, wow.
As a kid, and I was just like, oh, that blonde chick on there is, that's a good looking lady right there.
I don't
She's
think I
also
knew-
great. She's also great as Marcia in the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
I
she's
think that's
fantastic.
the first time I knew who she was. I don't think I ran across her before that.
Yeah, I mean, Hey Dude was a show meant for children, and I was a child when I watched it, so that made sense. Yeah. you weren't watching Nickelodeon shows when you were like 15?
Man, you'd be surprised at what I would watch if it was on. and I
Well,
was sitting to sit
yes.
down.
I'm so sorry. I should have remembered my audience.
I mean, what year did Clarissa Explains It All come out? I watched some of that.
I'm going to say that's
And I think I was like 30.
1993.
Yeah.
I was 30. I was 30. Clarissa's got a good point there. Hey,
You
honey,
don't
wake
even
up the
have-
baby. Wake up the baby.
You don't really
She needs
need-
to see this.
You don't really need things answered until you're 30. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point in explaining it all to a 14-year-old? What's their worst problem? They can't get the baseball card they want? Man, I've got a mortgage. The IRS is breathing down my neck. Clarissa, take me away.
Bruce is
You know how much those 14-year-olds these days love baseball cards.
They're all about the NFTs and the cryptos.
You literally just sounded like a look. You can't hang out at the soda shop and expect to become an actor. It's literally what you just sounded like.
I like to, Clarissa Explains It All, 1991. So Bruce was 30 in 1991.
Okay, I was younger than I thought, but I did like Clarissa Explains It All. And I knew that, like, if my friends saw me watching it, I have to come up with a lie to explain it away.
He's like, no, man, I like the redheaded brother. He's a little bit of a jerk, you know? He's fun. He's fun.
So it was only like 16, 17. So that I can handle because I'm pretty sure I'm about the same age as Melissa Joan Hart, if you catch my drift.
Nobody calls her kid Ferguson anymore. That's a sad thing. No one's naming their kids that. Well, before we get down to our final review here and everything, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how does this unaired TV pilot movie, whatever it is, how does it relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Ooh,
Sly. Hey, Sly, did you know that Jack Black was in Demolition Man? Because I've seen that movie a bunch of times and I didn't remember, but he is. And I, for one, am grateful that he is because I'm getting real tired of making your appearance on the TV show Las Vegas, the Stallone Connection. Jack Black is the son of two rocket scientists. He's really good friends with Dave Grohl, and he has the voice of an angel. This is a trick movies would pull a few times early on in his career where you didn't know someone who looks like him could sing, or at the very least make you forget about it. But at this point, if you see Jack Black in a movie and they don't have him sing, it's very clear to me that those people who are making the movie don't know what they're doing. It's like when someone hires Michael Fassbender in a movie and you don't have him showing full hog. It's like, what are we even doing here?
why do you show up?
The weird thing
why
about
did we bring Fassbender onto this kid show?
The weird thing about Jack Black is that for years I would confuse him with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the same actor. And it wasn't until Tenacious D that I could tell the two apart. I thought Jack Black was in Twister. I thought Philip Seymour Hoffman was in The Cable Guy. But after Tenacious D, I think you'd have to be an idiot or an old person to confuse the two. And speaking of old idiots, Mr. Stallone, I want to ask if you knew that Jack Black was a child actor, because he was. And one of the shows he performed on was the new Leave It to Beaver. On that show, Jack Black plays a character named Nick. Now, I haven't seen the episode, but since Jack Black is dark and Jewish, I think you can figure out what role they had him playing on the new Leave It to Beaver. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen an episode of the new Leave It to Beaver, and I don't know anyone who has, so I went to the most reliable place for reviews, and that's the IMDb user review page. And today's review comes to us from someone who has named themselves Steampunk Groove. Steampunk Groove writes, I've watched several episodes, and I can't help but think that the new sitcom series is more about the rest of the family than it is about the beaver. He seems to be more of like a regular special appearance guest in this series. 4 out of 10 stars. Ooh. Thank you, Steampunk Groove. That's not very steampunk of you. Looks like someone forgot about the punk part of steampunk. Anyway, that's it for me, Mr. Stallone. I hope to hear from you next week. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Ooh, all righty. Well, let's get down to it. This unaired pilot, who knows what, it never got to fruition, but you know what? It's going to get a grade. Bruce, where does Heat, Vision, and Jack fall on the Robin rating system for you?
I don't know if you know this or not, but a couple times in my life, people said that I look kind of like Jack Black.
Yeah, I see that.
And I think that makes me like admire him more, because if a guy that looks like me can make it, anybody can make it. So I'm happy for the guy, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, he had plenty of acting talent too, but I don't get compared to him as much. But anyway, I enjoyed it for reasons that go beyond just the simple enjoying of a show. So if you're the kind of person who is kind of a little bit of like a amateur TV historian, comic book historian, and you kind of want to see this lost treasure and you haven't seen it yet, I'd say go check it out. It's that curiosity scale Damian Wayne. For me personally, I'd probably enjoy it a little bit more than that. But my recommendation to the world is kind of that curiosity level Damian Wayne. Watch it and decide for yourself.
Sean?
Yeah, same as Bruce. For me, it's a curio. It's a Damian Wayne. I'm not the biggest fan of this show. It's fun to watch just because it kind of gives you like, oh, this is what the year 1999 was like just before The Matrix came out. That's literally what this feels like.
The Matrix came out 3 months later, and then everyone's like, oh, God, we can't put this on the air.
Right. And so, and that's what it feels like. This is 1999 before The Matrix came out. And that's totally what this feels like to me. So Damian Wayne.
Yeah, hi, Damian Wayne for me. I'm glad that you guys kind of prefaced this with it's kind of almost not an anti-comedy per se, but it's not you're not slapping your knee at any particular point in it. No. But there's enough funny stuff and enough, like you said, a curiosity of everything and what are we doing, and the fact that they're making it straight. It's not like it's not like there's a lack of like setups or something where Ben Stiller's not trying to direct something dynamic and interesting looking, even though it's kind of crappy. He's putting in the work for it. And like the great like 90s editing style and everything, it is a great little time capsule of kind of where we were and everything, and of that where Ben Stiller is like he's directing things at this point, but he hasn't kind of gotten that giant explosion yet, and it would come a little bit later. I mean, he directed Zoolander, but like Tropic Thunder would be the one where everybody was like, oh, Ben Stiller the director. And you can kind of start to see little bits of that, and he's worked with Jack Black between Cable Guy and this and everything, so it's no surprise that he brought him back for Tropic Thunder and stuff, and he tends to do that a lot. And so I think that's why people keep, while he, like you said, he may be difficult to work with, a lot of people keep coming back enough to work with him, so he's got to be doing something right, I guess.
If this had gone to series, he was going to introduce that Tom Cruise character earlier.
I think the problem is it's the dirty poor people that he treats poorly, not the actors,
not
and
his buddies,
producers, and
that bugs me, but some of that's just affluenza. Like, it's kind of easy to forget that he was born into a pretty good situation because, I mean, his dad's a character actor. He's not like leading man, so you kind of forget about it.
And they're not spitting images of each other, so, you don't really kind of...
Which will be funny, though, as Ben Stiller ages if he slowly turns into Jerry Stiller.
Oh, my God. I have, secretly hoped that for so long. There's a deep part of me that's just
he's not going to, though. I mean, he's got too much of his mom in him. Who
is his mom?
Mira. Helen Mira.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
You mean she did that with his dad?
Yeah.
Dude must have had some serious money on him back in the day because he is not handsome.
Well, they were a comedy duo.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so so look up just the history of his dad, of his parents just doing comedy for so many years. It's impressive.
Who did you say his mom was again? I might have misunderstood who you said.
Helen Mira.
I thought you said Helen Mirren.
That's different.
No.
That was like, whoa, that is a couple.
I knew that's who I knew that's who Bruce thought of in his head, and I just didn't want to have to go through on the entire show. I was just like, I'm gonna just tell him to go look I'm gonna tell him to look some stuff up. He'll be fine.
The Lord made me this way. I don't do it on purpose.
Yeah, they say he doesn't make mistakes, but he makes some blunders from time to time. That is it, everybody, for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a second. Bruce, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm having a lot of fun collaborating with my friends Chris and Matthew Vandiver, making some Trigun Stampede review videos over on the YouTube channel. Still got the
trifecta's back.
Yes. And it's youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie or @AnimeDad is my YouTube handle. Find it. You'll enjoy it. Maybe I'll do an essay on what it feels like to not be Jack Black. A video essay.
Honestly, that could be something quite funny. Sean, what do you got?
We got The Mandalorian Season 3 coming up on 30Q. Look for that.
Get yourself ready. I am excited for all of that, and hopefully you'll be excited because next week we're going to be talking the first 3 episodes of The Last of Us on HBO. It has been making quite a splash with a lot of people. We're going to see what all the hype's about, and we're going to be checking that out next week. So join us for more of that. That is it, everybody. That is it for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. Remember, patreon.com/HMP, pre-show, post-show, Danger Zone, all that kind of good stuff. Join us next week for The Last of Us. First week's on Scumbags from the Internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Anna Portras. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
This was the land that he worked by hand. It was the dream of an upright man. There was a room that was filled with love. It was a love that I was proud of. This is the life that he planned on the love, the same old love in the house that Jack built. The house that Jack built. Remember this house. There was a fence that held our love. Yes, it was.